March 20th, 2023. This is the S&P 500 E-Futures Mini 2000 tick chart on the Thinkorswim platform. You don't have to watch my entire video if you just want to compare where I took my trades or I thought might have seen a setup compared to where you saw it. You can just look at the descriptions below. That's where they're timestamped for the trading day and where they are in the video. So this is what the chart looked like today. It kind of had in the pre-market, which is this gray area, a sell-off, and then it kind of made a big bounce. And then in the open, it kind of almost recovered the entire move. And then it kind of chopped sideways, and it was a slow but very gradual rally. So this is how I drew up my charts today. I took 3 trades. My first trade was red, and then my second 2 trades afterwards were green. So I was able to walk away green. Let me just make these disappear. So it was kind of choppy today, so I didn't see as many good setups. The blue ones are on my trades, and then the red ones are where I thought I saw something, either a trade or a potential setup. And I did see one big measured move here, and I thought it might complete a second measured move up to here, but it never did, meaning it had to come up to here. But I did see potentially a trading range several times here, but here I had to kind of adjust throughout this part of the day because I had it actually lower. And I had a second one here. You know, there are some smaller ones like in here and whatnot. And I did see potentially one big channel, like a spike in a channel that came up. It broke out and it looked like it kind of made a second channel here, but I couldn't quite get a good channel to fit down here. I mean, down here you could say, okay, I got good 3 touches, so it's a trend line here. But then up here, it didn't really fit anywhere. So I just kind of left it at that and worked with a smaller channels as well as some trading ranges. So let me go into my trades. Oh, if you just want to see what it looked like, I guess on Friday. So let's see. So Friday, if you remember, it looked like this. It kind of had a spike, kind of a gradual sell-off, and then it was just in this big trading range here. This is how I looked at it last time, and I did see a gigantic channel going down. And then today, there wasn't quite a follow-through. It kind of bounced around, looked like it was trying to recover. So this is a pre-market. I don't really trade the pre-market. I didn't bother drawing in the channel for this guy because it just came down. It didn't continue and just kind of bounced back up. I did draw this guy. I know there's some smaller channels here, but it was just a preliminary look at what things were doing. And then this guy doesn't come into play. This channel doesn't come into play until a little bit later. So when the market's open, there was this smaller trading range here that I had at one time, but I kind of didn't keep it around for much longer after that, but I'll just put it in here. Okay, it looks all right there. So there is a new high, first entry long, potential second entry long here, but it's below the EMA. It's kind of going sideways. It's in the pre-market. I saw it, but I didn't take it because I know upon the open, volume is going to start increasing and more traders will be more present into trading. So I didn't want to take a risk of any weird spikes. I saw a new high here, first entry long. I'll just zoom in. First entry long, and then a potential second entry long. Now I think this might have actually been a trade because this is a pretty decent signal bar. It triple topped here. It broke out of this trading range, which I had at the time, but I later deleted, thinking it might be a failed breakout back into here. It made 2 clean legs down. And it's possible bottom of this trading range because depending on how you had it, because you could have drawn it a little bit closer down here. Nevertheless, it's either a failed breakout or a bottom of the trading range. But I wasn't too sure I was ready to take that trade because this is only 7 minutes into the trading day. If it had been more visible, more clean, more of a trading channel or trend channel, I might have taken it because this is kind of a small little bump and then comes back down. So you could maybe see it as one big leg, even though it doesn't fit a clean channel. But I saw it more as 2, but I wasn't quite sure what I was seeing, so I left it alone. This yellow line is the 100-day simple moving average, excuse me, the 200-day simple moving average, which is this guy. Prices continue moving up. They chopped around. They're in this trading range right now, or trading range. Breaks out, breaks down below. Here's the potential breakout, and it pulls back in. So at this point, I draw this bigger one to kind of capture this. So let me just kind of get, so it doesn't get confusing. I'm just going to drag this over here, and I'm going to crop it. Okay, so then I thought maybe I'm working with this bigger one because I saw 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. And this top one, I like this 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch up here. So it's kind of like this smaller one evolved into this bigger one. Prices continue moving. And here I see a potential failed second entry, excuse me. Here I see a second entry short and a failed breakout. So it's like a new low here on the bottom of my new trading range. I go up, I make this first entry short as soon as it breaks below, comes up, and I'm watching here to see if there's a potential second entry short. It's a pretty decent signal bar. There's enough room to the EMA, but I thought the risk was kind of large because if I was going to get my order ready right after this candle, I'd probably put it one tick below. But this is kind of a big 4-point candle, and I just didn't really felt that good about it because it made this big green bull candle up. Now it's making a slightly smaller, but also very big red candle back down. This is a little too choppy for me, but it looks like it would have worked. So I didn't get that trade, but that's okay. Continues chopping around. All these intermediate trading ranges, excuse me, not trading ranges, trend channels, I kind of drew throughout the day and was using them to see, if this breakout makes two more pushes to the high. So I'm not going to really go through each one, but just kind of helped me to see what's going on. This is where I took my first trade, actually. So I did see a new high here, first entry long, and I see a potential second entry long setting up here. Now, this is actually going to be a red trade, but this is what I saw at the time and what I thought was going to be a good trade, because I do see this channel going up, have 1 touch, 2 touch, and I saw a 3rd touch when this guy formed, and then I put the top and I saw 1 touch. You could count this as 2 touch, but I counted more as like more than 2 touches. I said 1 touch, 2 touch, looks like it came back in and came back up. So I thought maybe there's at least 3 touches here, 3 touches here. And so overall, the trend is bullish. So when I saw this candle form, I said, okay, double topped here. It unfortunately didn't break above, so I was a little early, and I jumped on the trade. I put it 1 tick above this guy, and when the next candle formed, it filled me, then it immediately took me out because I actually had my stop below this guy. If I had my stop below this guy, let's see what happens. I still would have lost. So this was my first trade, and it was a red trade. I thought it was good enough, but in hindsight, it's a little far from the EMA. It is kind of buying at the high if I took into consideration this is the trading range. Because actually, I didn't think this was a trading range yet. I actually had this higher up. Wow, that looked bad. I actually had a trading range cutting through the bottom here and cutting through the top. And then later, of course, I dragged it and it evolved into this big one. So that was kind of a hindsight, but in the moment, I thought this might have been a good trade. What I should have done, because it technically hasn't made a second entry long yet, it made first entry long. This one, even though it's a good signal bar, it didn't quite break above this guy. And then this made the second entry long. But when I took it, it was a little early because it went up and it flashed back down and closed to the bottom. So, it took me out, even though it's a little bit conservative in my stop because I should have had it down here. But in this case, being conservative paid off because it would have taken me out on this candle anyways, which meant I would have lost a few more ticks. So prices continue moving down, makes this channel, breaks, kind of goes sideways for a bit. Let me just zoom out. Okay, there we go. I saw a measured move here, and I thought there might be a potential measured move here. One leg down, small little consolidation pullback, and then another leg down. Prices continue down, and then it almost makes that measured move, and then it reverses. So I don't see any good setups here or anything safe to take. I do see this failed second entry short. So like I saw this as okay, a short here. I counted this as my first entry short. Then I counted this as my second entry short. So as soon as it broke below this candle, this red candle, it is a confirmed second entry short. But it doesn't mean that you should be taking a long or a short. It doesn't mean, it just means because this isn't consistent. This is like a bearish candle. It's a bullish candle. So I wasn't sure what I should do. So my best plan was to do nothing. And so this candle forms. So it's kind of contradicting this guy, and it's kind of reaffirming that it could be a second entry short. And then when this guy comes up, I'm thinking, okay, well, if this breaks above this guy, like next candle breaks above this guy, ideally above this guy, it could be a potential second entry short. But in hindsight, it is kind of far from the EMA, so I didn't think there was a trade there or a safe trade to take. So I actually sat on my hands. It's just a setup that I saw, though. So here it would have been a failed second entry short because it broke above this guy and this guy. But as soon as it's like it kind of stopped, at this resistance, which this line here, this dotted line, is actually the 100-day simple moving average, which doesn't really come into play. I'm not using that as an excuse that that's why it stopped. But there are other traders that are watching these lines, so maybe it has an effect, maybe it doesn't. To me, it doesn't really have an effect. I only take this into account if it kind of helps reinforce a trade that I already see or a setup that I already see. Like if this was going to contribute as another key entry point, like maybe I was a little unsure, but in this one of these lines, this either this 100-day or 200-day is kind of contributing another potential, key factor, key entry point that I might take into effect. But in this case, it doesn't really, I didn't really take it into account. It just happens to be there. And it looks like the failed secondary short would have worked. And then this is actually where I took my second trade, because I saw this as the first entry short, second entry short. It didn't come down to the EMA, and I said, well, if this is a true reversal pattern, even though this isn't quite a trend yet, but it is coming up, it broke out of this channel, broke out, made it one attempt to go to new high, second attempt. I was just thinking at the time when I saw this, I go, this is a potential higher low. It's not the cleanest setup, I'll admit, but I thought, okay, it does confirm this failed second entry short because it went first entry short, second entry short. And if you actually counted this as one leg, because maybe your chart doesn't have this small little break below, you could say there's a first entry short, there's a potential second entry short, in which case, instead of a higher low, you might have considered this as the failed second entry short. So nevertheless, I did take the trade because I said I like that the EMA is holding and it bounced. I am getting close to the top of this potential trading range, but I thought I had enough room to squeeze out a scalp. So I actually entered one tick above. It filled me. And then here's where I was able to get out my core. And then I got my runner up a little bit above here. So it was kind of like, in hindsight, like, okay, it is a little riskier. I think it was a little aggressive, but it worked out. I mean, I wish this was kind of set up a little bit differently. Like I was concerned that maybe I'm going to run into this high, this previous high, and you do kind of run into it and it gets rejected, as well as the top of this trading range. Then price is reversed, comes back down, bouncing. Here's the midline of this trading range. It looks like it's respecting it. Now it breaks up and up, rough up and out. And then this is actually the high and low from the pre-market. So this is the high of the pre-market and low of the pre-market. Yes, the high is actually up here, but I actually took it down here just because I like that it helps include this guy. And then same thing down here. The low of the pre-market's actually down here where this gray line is, but I actually drew my trading range kind of here because I also like to include this guy if possible, even though there's a small little overshoot here and a small little overshoot here. So that's what this line here is, and it actually got touched right over here, which kind of helped confirm like, okay, maybe this line might be in play, so just keep an eye on it. I did see a new high, first entry long, second entry long. Now the second entry long, I actually did try to take this trade because I saw, okay, this is a so-so signal bar, but it's only the first entry. But then I saw this and I thought this is a pretty decent signal bar. It's bouncing off the EMA. It looks like it's this smaller trading range, this top of this trading range is kind of already being tested and it broke out a couple of times. Now these are debatable whether it breaks out or not because you could certainly draw it higher, but this one is pretty much a breakout. And then I saw this one is for sure a breakout because it definitely closed outside. Then I tried again and I'm thinking, okay, well this, so at the time I only saw this. I thought, oh, this is a pretty good signal bar. I'm going to try to take an entry, but I'm a little concerned. I don't want to put my entry one tick above because it is close to this trading range. But keep in mind, my trading range might not be drawn correctly. It could actually be higher. So I actually put my entry a little lower, a little closer to the midline of here. And I actually wanted to take this trade, but I missed this trade because I saw, okay, 2 legs down as well, which kind of gives me a little more confidence that this trade might actually work out. And so I did put my entry there. As you can see, I never get filled. I was a little too optimistic in this case because I was hoping to come down, you get close to the EMA, pick me up and go. If I actually put it one tick above, I would have gotten into this trade. But then at the time, I don't think I was mentally willing or accepting to take this bigger risk. Because if I took it into the center, then my stop is actually down here. So my risk is only about, at most, like 2 points. So maybe if I see more of these, I'll be more confident that particular setups like this might be better just to go ahead and take the top just to get included into the trade as opposed to down here just to get a little more safety. But I also was thinking like this is the very top, very high of the trading day. even though this is the high actually right here. It didn't, it made me think, okay, I'm already getting close to the top. So if I want to take a trade, which I did, I just have to be a little more careful and hope that it'll come back for me. In this case, it didn't. I was too optimistic and I didn't get in. So prices continued moving. And this is where I took my last trade, my third trade actually, third and last trade. I saw a new high and a first entry long and a second entry long. So right here, the second entry long is formed and confirmed right here because it broke above this guy. And this is also, at the time I was playing with a potential channel here. I did like it touched once. Well, I'm just going to count this as one because that's what I did earlier. One touch, two touch, and it didn't quite do a third touch, but it was close. Then I also drew the top of it was one touch here. So throughout the day, I was actually playing with various trading ranges, not trading ranges, trend channels, because I actually had a one cutting up here. And then when all these guys started violating the prices going, below and above, I didn't quite like it, and I dragged it a little bit closer to here. And here I did have it one time because I said, okay, maybe there's a small little overshoot here. And then I actually thought, okay, maybe it's up here. But then I thought, well, maybe that's actually lower to here. But in both cases, this one was probably the better one where I'm about to drop it because it touched once here and then it touched almost twice here because I will just highlight this guy. It almost touched a second time. So I had that at one time. And then later, as prices evolved, I turned it into this guy. So I'm not going to have that guy, the one that I just drew on this chart right now, because it's just going to get confusing. But I saw this. I saw a failed second entry long, enough room to get to this top of the EMA. Right now, it's dancing above the top of the trading range formed by the pre-market. And I thought this was a pretty good trade to have entered because I saw, okay, there's kind of two legs down, and now it's kind of pulling back. So overall trend is bullish. Even if you didn't have this trading range drawn, you would admit that, hey, the prices are kind of grinding up. So that's what I saw, and I thought, okay, well, there is a potential trade there. It's coming, it broke down below. And I didn't actually enter on this candle yet because it formed below the EMA. So it went and it broke down. I saw, okay, first entry, excuse me, a second entry long, and then this one kind of makes it looks like a failure. It engulfs this whole thing. So I just thought, okay, there's a potential. I'm not exactly sure which way it's going to go yet. And then I just kind of waited. It turned out to be a little flat. I was lucky on this trade because I ended up taking a short. Let me just show. Right here. Now, I didn't want to take it one tick below here because it had been at 39.75 or 39.76 roughly. And I thought, wow, if taking it here, it might be running into this thing. It's bouncing off. I wasn't too sure. So I actually put my entry and I got a little bit of better fill because I got filled at 39.79, which is way up here. And I got filled on this guy. Let me just, okay. Got on this guy. I was able to get my scalp and my runner. I wasn't trying to be too ambitious. And then it reversed on me because if I hung in there too long or for more ticks, I would have gotten taken out because my stop was actually above here, above these two double tops. And this candle would have taken me out. So I thought about it, throughout the day, thinking if this was actually a good trade or not. And I kind of came to the conclusion that it wasn't the best trade. It was kind of a lucky trade because if I think about it, I saw this first entry, second entry, and I thought, okay, it's probably going to be bullish. I want to maybe take a long position because when this formed, it confirmed, I thought, okay, maybe I'll put one tick above. But then as this one was forming, I was trying to be more patient because I thought the EMA is cutting through. It flashed down. So then kind of on the fly, I reversed my thinking, okay, it's going to be short. So I went ahead and shorted. I actually had my short down here, and for whatever reason, I got a little bit better fill, which is, rare. I got filled up here, and my stop was actually up here. And it went, chopped around, this too congested, and then it came down, it picked me up, and then also took out my runner, because I kind of just dragged it and just hope that I get a little bit more. But as I said, in hindsight, I think this wasn't the best trade. And I just kind of got out of it out of pretty much luck. So it was certainly was aggressive. And I don't think in hindsight, as I looked throughout the day, when I kept looking back on it, kind of critiquing it, I don't think I should have taken that trade. It should have been skipped. So it was more like I just fell into it, and I was lucky that it didn't bite me too badly. Prices continue moving up, confirms the top of this trend channel now, which is good because I actually had a cutting lower before, and then I had said I like these 3 touches. Then it goes into that small little trading range, cuts down, and now it's actually selling off. So here, as this is developing, I'm watching to see if it's going to bounce off of this lower channel of my original ascending channel. I thought it might bounce here and go back up, but I'm just watching carefully. I didn't see any really good, clean second entry setups here. So I just sat on my hands. Okay, so here it now breaks through. I'm thinking, okay, is it going to break through and come back? Maybe there's going to be a setup. There is no setup currently, but maybe it's going to start formulating something for me. But it keeps breaking out and it breaks down strongly. Not only that, it breaks out of this trend channel that I drew. It has this very big overshoot. It's more than an overshoot at this time because the overshoot shot here, tried to come back in, and it definitely came, broke out, closed outside. It's doing its own thing outside. And this is where it kind of got choppy. I draw this one, and I thought, okay, maybe there's a failed second entry short here. I saw a new low, first entry short, second entry short. This is like, let me zoom, let me go back. So right here, it doesn't make a second entry short yet. This one makes it a confirmed second entry short, but it's a pretty iffy entry because I'm not really sure if it's going to keep going down. Is the EMA going to push it down, or is it going to break up? So I want to see if it breaks up above here and makes it a failed second entry. It doesn't. Now this bar kind of confirms or continues the belief that it's second entry short. When I draw this trend channel, I had 1, 2 touches and 1, 2, 3 touches and 1, 2, but I wasn't really sure what was going on yet. Then I saw this reverse and I thought, okay, maybe there's a failed second entry short here now because it's a pretty decent signal bar. If the next candle breaks above this guy, then it probably is a second entry short, but I didn't like how half of it formed below the EMA and the other half is kind of above the EMA. So certainly with my experience level, I didn't think it was quite a reversal yet. So I said, I need to look for a second entry. I need to look for a higher low to confirm this failed second entry short. So here I'm watching if there's going to be a higher low. This is a higher low of this failed second entry short. But I thought, I'm not 100% sure still because it looks 1, 2, and there's a higher low. So in my thought, back of my mind, I should take a long, but it's kind of touching the top of this. So if I took a candle up here or 1 tick above, it's already kind of buying at the top of this guy. So it didn't really sit well with me. And then to buy lower here, well, what's to say it's not going to come back down further? It'd be like a continuation down to touch this guy. So taking all that into account, I don't really know what was going on. So I just sat on my hands. Then the prices continue chopping through this trading range, breaks out of this trading channel, and continues moving up. So what confused me was I had this, and I thought this was a pretty good channel. But then it breaks out, and not only it breaks out, it's not quite an overshoot because it's more than an overshoot. It's quite strong. So then I drew this other channel, which is the best way I could make it fit. And I thought, this is a little confusing. It's already here, and then it's here. It looks kind of piecemeal. And then it kind of goes into this trading range, which confused me even more. Or not confused me, but just made it difficult for me to know which way, what the bias is, what price action is going to do. But I did see this first entry long, and I saw a second entry long. And I thought this might have been a trade because this is a good signal bar. It bounced off the EMA. But again, I have this dueling channel thing going on. I'm not really sure what I'm looking at, plus this trading range. So I said, okay, maybe there's a setup, maybe there won't be. I just watched. It looked like there could have been a setup for at least for a quick scalp, but I don't know that at the time. And even afterwards, I don't think that was really a safe trade to have taken. So I did mark it just so, when I review in the future, I'll just know that this type of thing exists. If I see something similar, just stay away. Prices continue moving. It kind of sells off. It's getting a little more confusing now because it goes into this other trading range. And I saw this new low, first entry short, second entry short. I saw this lower high, but I don't like the looks of this candle. It closed too neutral, even though it is slightly bearish. So if I wanted to take a short, I'd have to take it either down here or take it up here and hope that it picks me up on the next candle. But I didn't like that the EMA is getting close to here. And all this time right now, EMA has been respected by staying below. Price has been staying below, but then here, kind of has been dancing above and below. Then it stays above, and then here again, it's above and below. EMA is kind of cutting through. It kind of doesn't give me any good idea of what's going on. It just seems and feels very choppy. So if I did take a short here, I would have gotten filled, it looks like, but I was afraid it might touch the EMA. But in this case, it would have worked out pretty well. Then I did see this failed second entry long because I saw a new high, first entry long, comes up, potential second entry long, because at the time I only had a support line drawn here because it looked like it was touching here. And when this one confirmed, I thought, okay, maybe there's actually a trading range now, and I drew it up here. But I wasn't ready to take this trade because I didn't like this candle. I also didn't like this candle, even though it's the bottom of this trading range. If this candle was actually a little more bullish, then I probably would have felt, okay, there's enough strength maybe to make its way back up to here. But it didn't tell me that at the time, so I was just sitting on my hands. Especially when this one closed, I said, okay, maybe it might keep going down, but don't get drawn into taking anything foolish. It does go down and eventually kind of turns itself back up. So you could say this might be a failed breakout of this trading range. Goes up. And I don't know what happened here, but this is a gigantic candle. When I saw that, it kind of shocked me. I thought, okay, there's this big impulse. Is it going to respect this here, or is it going to bump back down? So when this candle formed, I go, oh, okay, maybe there is a potential short here, but there was no setup. It's only like potentially a first entry because the new low doesn't really break below until here, where it might, and then the next candle does break below, but I only saw it as a first entry. Definitely not anything I want to take a trade off of. So I'm thinking maybe there's a second entry coming up here, but then it's running to the EMA. So I was thinking maybe there's going to be a trade there. It does form a second entry, but I noticed that it closed right at the EMA. When it does that, I wasn't sure if the EMA is actually going to be strong. It is getting flat here, but there is a slight bearish kind of tone to it, kind of bounced and it's kind of making its way down. So keeping all that in mind, I just said, you know what? Just sit on your hands. You don't know what the hell you're doing. And that's not the first time I'll say that. I mean, a lot of times I'm sitting there and I'm not sure what's going on, and I'll just try to remind myself, you don't know what's going on. You don't know what to do here. So best thing is don't do anything. Just watch. And so prices continue moving. It's in this trading range. This trading range at one time it did draw a little lower to about right there. Keeps bouncing. It's like, looks like it's respecting this trading range, but I also notice the EMA is starting to turn up. But I also know it's getting close to the end of the day. So I kind of just said, hands off, don't try to get another trade in. I was lucky with these two trades. So this one was a losing trade. This one, I got a winning trade to kind of help cancel out this guy. And this guy, as I said, in hindsight, I thought about it and I thought this trade probably shouldn't have happened. And I was lucky that I actually did get a profit on this short because it easily could have just bit me. So I'm already kind of green from the day. Don't push the luck, especially at this late in the day, trying to squeeze out another trade because there's not much time left and I don't want to hold overnight. So I just kind of sat and I watched. I noticed the EMA is holding and it just kind of chops around. It gets super choppy because this is the last 10 minutes starting from here. In the last 10 minutes, in a normal minute candle, you're going to see a lot of just probably 10 candles, but there was like a lot of action going on here. So definitely don't want to be in that mess. And then it just kind of goes into the close. So that's how I saw the chart today. It was not, for me, I didn't see that many good setups. And even the setups I took, I'll admit, this one was pretty iffy, even though it worked out for me. And what confused me for sure was these overlapping channels, because I kind of want to see if it can capture it all. But to say this guy is actually up here, I thought was too wide. So I kind of kept it down here and then kept this, second piecemeal. So it's a one channel, two channel consolidation, then one channel up, one channel down, another break up and then down. So it was a little confusing here. So overall, it was, I think what's happening is since the FOMC meeting is coming up starting tomorrow and into Wednesday, I've noticed in the past, especially this time lately, when an FOMC meeting is coming up, usually the day before the meeting and the announcement, trading can be kind of volatile and slow. So I imagine tomorrow where the actual meeting starts, but they don't actually announce the rate, which everybody expects to be 25 basis points, is probably going to be kind of slow as well. So I'm going to have to remind myself to be very careful and not get chopped up because this wasn't a very clean trading range. It doesn't make consistent lows and consistent highs. It's kind of in a channel, but even then the channel is pretty ugly. And then on Wednesday, I expect there's probably going to be a lot of craziness happening because once it's official and Fed Powell actually comes out and starts giving color, it'll probably get really, really more choppy and quite probably some very big swings. So hopefully that was helpful. It was helpful for me to talk it through and kind of review my trades.